This Sunday, England will play their first game of Euro 2024 against Serbia, and going into the competition, they are the tournament favourites. So we're here to break down the strengths and weaknesses of their final selected squad and what they should expect going into their rather interesting group. Beginning with England's 26-man squad. All in all, there were mixed views on Gareth Southgate's final pickings. In the goalkeeping department, there wasn't much to complain about. Jordan Pickford, Aaron Ramsdale and Dean Henderson are arguably England's three best goalkeepers, with Tom Heaton joining the squad as a training goalkeeper. However, there was a bit more to pick at in the defensive selections. Harry Maguire unfortunately couldn't make the squad due to injury, which is a massive blow for England. He was included in the team of the tournament for Euro 2020 and has been reliable for the Three Lions for years on years, next to his partner at the back, John Stones. With Maguire absent, Lewis Dunk, Joe Gomez, Ezri Konsa and Mark Guehi were given the nod, which is understandable. But Jarrad Branthwaite being overlooked in this department was a peculiar choice. As Wayne Rooney alluded to on the Euros fan debate, England lacks a lot of left-footed players in the squad. Therefore, the angle bias and predictability when England are in possession is a problem. This becomes even more worrying when you realise that Kieran Trippier is currently being used as the starting left-back for England, with Luke Shaw slowly returning from injury.
That's why I'm so surprised that Branthwaite's not there, because obviously with Trippier being right-footed as well, I think Branthwaite would have given so much balance. He's really good with his feet. He went over to Holland, was playing on loan in Holland before coming back to Everton. Plays balls through the lines, he's a big lad, he's aggressive. I was shocked. That's probably the biggest shock for me that he went in the squad, with Harry being left out.
So with Kyle Walker, Stones, Guehi and Trippier in the back four, they struggle to build up with fluidity. Southgate's decision not to take Branthwaite is a big worry, considering his box defending, pace, physicality, aerial dominance and left-footedness. This brings us up to the left side of the back four. If Luke Shaw is fit, then great. However, the Manchester United man has had another season riddled with injuries, and if his first game back in months is to be a Euros group stage game, the worry about him going cold into the tournament is evident. Overlooking natural left-backs like Alfie Doherty, Tariq Mitchell and Lewis Hall is an eyebrow raiser for sure, especially if Shaw begins to struggle early on. Trippier has been wonderful for England for many years, but his entire game is restricted when every pass has to be made on his right side, when he's on the touchline, and as we can see from his pass map against Iceland, this was definitely the case. It also doesn't help how Walker is joined in as a third central defender on the ball, as this forces Kieran Trippier to get forward and provide the team's width on the left-hand side, which when you're on your wrong side is again incredibly hard to do. However, I do like the inclusions of Ezri Konsa and Joe Gomez. They have both played as fullbacks for their clubs and they've been given the responsibility to tuck in alongside the other two centre-backs or inverting inside to midfield, which is exactly what Kyle Walker is being asked to do for England. In midfield, players like Jordan Henderson and Calvin Phillips were dropped out entirely, with young players like Adam Wharton and Kobbie Mainoo coming through. And fans were actually quite generous towards this decision, as Wharton and Mainoo could potentially be England's mainstay midfielders for years and years to come. So granting them with a worthy call-up and achievement was brilliant, especially after their performances in the second half of the season. Alongside this, Declan Rice, Conor Gallagher, Jude Bellingham and Trent Alexander-Arnold all bring really good balance and quality into the midfield. As Gary Neville and Wayne Rooney spoke about, the dynamics in midfield, depending on the game state and the game situation they're in, will often change. Therefore, it's totally feasible that we can see Mainoo or Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield in the group stages. But as England progress through the tournament, there's a sense that they will add more solidity and legs with a player like Conor Gallagher.
I think what you're saying makes sense, but I think what you're saying, I think Gareth thinks.
I think that's purely because of the lack of players here.
I've got this feeling that he loves Gallagher.
Yeah.
He may not throw him at us in game one, because he might think that'll just set off on a negative tone of putting Gallagher alongside Rice with Bellingham advanced. Because I think, personally, the team I think he wants to go for is...
He'll be Foden will go off the left.
Is that?
That's what he'll end up doing.
So for me, I think where Gareth's going to end up is to get that sort of extra runner, that legs, that one who can go and basically take the ball off people, because he's really good at that.
Finally, let's look at the forward options. Overall, there's not really too much to complain about here. Harry Kane, Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, Ollie Watkins and Anthony Gordon all had to be on the plane for Germany. I really like Southgate's choice of calling up Eberechi Eze. Towards the end of the season, he was outstanding, and he provides a different type of verticality and dynamism out wide or inside the half spaces that England can call up upon when needed. Jarrod Bowen does deserve his call-up. He's had 22 goals and assists in 34 Premier League games for West Ham, and he does offer a sense of goal-getting that not many of the other wingers have in the team. Ivan Toney is an interesting choice. 3 centre-forwards being picked for the Euros when Harry Kane and Ollie Watkins have been 2 of the best centre-forwards in Europe this season is strange, especially when you can call up a different type of wide player who has the credit in the bank for England, like a Raheem Sterling, Marcus Rashford, or even Jack Grealish. But all in all, I do understand the decision, especially if the game goes down to penalties. Now we move on to England's first group stage game against Serbia. Despite seeing different shapes from Serbia here and there, a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1 currently seems the way forward. Serbia are an interesting team, with dashes of top quality in there with players like Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, Dusan Vlahovic, Ivan Ilic, Alexander Mitrovic, Vanja Milinkovic-Savic, and Dusan Tadic. Despite holding 62.4% of the ball, the 10th highest out of the nations during the qualifying process for the Euros, their pass success rate is very poor, and more importantly, they are susceptible to turning over the ball in deeper build-up because they lack the technical quality need to play through a press consistently. However, coming into a group with England, Denmark, and Slovenia, we can expect them to use much more of a reserved approach, where they look to rely purely on counter-attacks. We saw this against Sweden when they beat them 3-0 with only 37% of the ball. On the 20th of June, England will play their arguably toughest game of the 3, Denmark. Denmark have been mixing it up ahead of the Euros, but a 3-4-1-2 is most likely what we're going to see, and this has the potential to be a very tough game for the Three Lions, with quality players like Christian Eriksen, Martin Holmlund, Joachim Andersen, Rasmus Højlund, Pierre-Emil Højbjerg, Victor Christensen, Jonas Vind, and many more in the starting 11. With a tricky style of play to face off against, England will need to approach this game with the right mentality. Denmark are one of the highest pressing teams in the competition, full stop. Out of the other 53 nations who were in the Euros qualifying process, they accumulated the most high turnovers and the most press sequences, full stop. On top of this, when looking at their starting distance of their back line, which measures how high their back line is on average up the pitch, no other nation has used a higher line on average than Denmark. Rasmus Højlund in a front 2 is an animal because of his ability to run the channels and drag the centre-backs into deep trouble, and this is something that England will have to be careful against, especially with their current defensive fragilities. And this game could be a matter of punch for punch, and England will have to land the bigger shots in the trade-offs. Last but not least is Slovenia on the 25th, a more conservative approach from a nation that you would expect to see heading into a tournament. However, that doesn't make them any less of a threat. A traditional 4-4-2 with no drastic rotations or movement within their shape on and off the ball, Slovenia rely a lot on counter-attacking through their split strikers and wingers who can stretch the pitch. Not to mention that England will have to deal with Slovenia's set-piece threat. In the Euros qualifying process, only Hungary managed to score more goals from set-pieces than them. And without Harry Maguire, this will be a problem that England have to adapt to. And it's not just that. They have Benjamin Sesko, who's an exciting young striker who has been their main man in qualification for this tournament. He stands at 6'5" tall, ridiculously athletic, and is a handful for any centre-half in Europe, especially when he's galloping into the space left in behind. So coming into this tournament, it's key that England will have to block up a lot of space in behind their back line, because they're coming up against some of the most dangerous forwards in the competition. So, are you happy with Gareth Southgate's chosen England squad? And do you think it has enough firepower to finally get them over the line this Euros?